What is the deeper symbolism of this myth? Rhea tried to convince her husband not to eat her child. She tried to reach an agreement with him, but nothing worked until she used a stratagem, until she deceived him. Here the myth reveals the first very important hypostasis of Neptune. Nothing can be obtained directly from the house of Neptune's placement in the chart. We cannot rush straight into the situation. Space will not give us anything, but on the contrary, will make us fall into the lower pole of Neptune, in the position of a victim. When Kronos ate Rhea's children, she was certainly playing the role of a victim until she switched to the stratagem, a trick, until she hid the sun Zeus. Therefore, in the house of Neptune, we can never achieve anything by acting directly. Zeus poisoned Kronos with a special potion to free his brothers and sisters. Here we see the themes of mystery, manipulation, workarounds, and poisoning. The energy of Neptune is omnipresent, but it does not destroy matter. Like water, it goes around, looks for loopholes, and penetrates them. The poles of Neptune. We will develop the subject of both poles. In the plus, half-tones, nuances, subtleties, the ability to distinguish them. In the minus, dogma, superficiality, primitivism. There exists only one blue color and no other shade. It stands for the Mercurian pole, while Neptune in the upper hypostasis offers different shades of blue: light blue, dark blue, turquoise blue. When Neptune falls into the lower pole, it falls into a literal and dogmatic perception. Since Neptune is responsible for esotericism and all subtle subjects, very often, in 70 and 80% of cases, people who engage in the practice of esotericism, yet who have not awakened their sun, have Neptune falling into dogmatism. It is forbidden to eat meat or do something else. You must meditate until you lose consciousness, because it is a universal energy and it will help everyone. In the area of religion, you must make the sign of the cross only in this way, from right to left and not from left to right. Or you must go to church every Sunday, otherwise God will turn away from you. The subject of dogmatic Neptune reveals itself when we do not understand the details, the little things, and we simply wish everyone happiness. We want to do good everywhere in the world without filtering. The question is, does the other need it? Your good. We don't think about it. The lower Neptune gives birth to intrusions, importunity. I know better what you need. People with lower Neptune, lower Pisces, for example, with afflicted moon in Pisces, are often obsessed with a single detail and begin to exaggerate it, to amplify it. The superior. Neptune is global and wise. It is the ability to see the good in something, the benefit, the hidden benefit. Jupiter and Neptune are the rulers of Pisces. Venus is in exaltation in Pisces, and therefore Neptune stands for the ability to see hidden advantages. People with lower Neptune are often idealists. I want to make a perfect website, to write an article perfectly from the first attempt. They criticize, look for imperfections, create problems out of nothing, and give them importance. Being on the lower pole of Neptune, the person does not see the workaround solutions and forces the situation, simply hammering on one point. She hides behind the following ideology: I'm not starting a business because the state steals from entrepreneurs anyway. She stops at one detail and goes around in circles, starting to inflate it instead of seeing the whole picture, the volume, the depth, instead of finding loopholes, her own hidden advantage. People with afflicted Neptune, with afflicted Pisces, often create situations where there is no benefit either for themselves or others. They create chaos and become victims of this attitude. They lose opportunities and don't share profit with others either. The sign of Pisces is called a spiritual sign, but in astrology there is no concept of spirituality. The question we must ask ourselves here is, how do we manage to manifest the exchange between physical and subtle matter? Because actually, this fine margin is present everywhere. On one hand, there are Hare Krishnas with their subtle vibrations, and on the other, there is a collection of donations, also a beggar mafia that makes a lot of money on your gullibility. A person, sometimes even knowing that he or she has been betrayed and used, experiences a masochism complex. I am a victim, yet at the same time, I am a saint. Society very actively praises the position of a victim. It's cool. Society doesn't need you to be strong or resourceful. It will constantly put pressure on you. Money laundering through donations to charitable funds and bribes stand for the superior Neptune. Because in the case of charity, of a donation in the form of a gift, we receive something in exchange in the end. Is it good or bad? The real question we must ask ourselves is, to what extent does the chart destiny allow such a scenario to the native? Yes, it is admissible if you have Neptune in house 2. If you have Saturn in house 2, then it is out of the question to allow yourself bribes and freebies. The consequences will be catastrophic. If we use Neptune's energies anywhere other than the house of its placement, Neptune will take terrible revenge. However, the sign of Pisces, as such, the graphic symbol, contains two fish, two halves or crescents of the moon joined by a line. The sign is both earthly and spiritual. On one hand, it is holiness, practices, and spiritual energies, and on the other hand, it is monetary donations and also beggars, scams, deception. The double meaning is present in this sign. This is how the reverse side of Neptune manifests itself. If you play fair, according to the rules in the house of Neptune, you will be a victim. The same logic applies to house 12. It is the specificity of the energy of the Pisces channel. The astrological graphic symbol of Neptune is the crescent of the soul rising above the cross of matter. After Uranus made us understand that our Saturnian perception of reality is not the end of the road, that there is something beyond this limit, Neptune appears and reveals this beyond to us. Saturn generates the illusion that reality is limited to what we can touch. Yet Neptune, on the contrary, reveals that everything we know and perceive as reality is nothing more than an illusion. The extent to which we are able to interact with the energy of Neptune will depend on our ability to work with the energies of Saturn. Uranus is the first test of Saturn's power over us, and the impact of Uranus is sudden and brief. Although it can be very destructive, we are usually able to cope with it. The results of the collision with Neptune are much more subtle, more confusing, and much more difficult to ignore. Everything dissolves in contact with Neptune. We lose the feeling of ourselves as individuals, and we dissolve into the common cosmic consciousness. If we are not attached to Saturn, this experience will become mystical, transformative. But if we are attached to the illusions of causality, the influence of Neptune will make us feel that everything is falling apart and that we are losing control of ourselves. The more developed the individual is, and the more he captures the vibrations of Neptune, the more he or she has the opportunity to resonate in concordance with these vibrations, which could be called ecstatic states. This is possible during deep meditations or sincere prayers. As the individual evolves spiritually, he develops the ability to sense the inner states and emotional impulses of another person. He achieves this when he does not just listen to the other's words, when he does not evaluate the other's appearance and does not rationally evaluate the other's actions. These are secondary factors, not allowing us to understand the other. This ability to understand the other is one of the most valuable qualities of a person. We are all very lonely in this world, and even when we have positive contacts which do not irritate us, or which at least do not harm us, we still have a clear feeling of our inner loneliness, because a very small number of people is capable to understand the other. Understanding is not hearing the words that are spoken or simply approving the actions of the other. Understanding does not mean rationally evaluating the manifestations of the other. Understanding is feeling the other, the state in which he finds himself, and the causes that put him into this state. It is the comprehension of the fact that the other's actions are the consequence of his inner states. Only then will we be able to forgive, empathize, and understand all manifestations of human nature, no matter how they may seem to us at first glance. Neptune in square or in opposition to the Sun and the Moon destroys the personality. The person starts doing something and then suddenly loses interest. And here Neptune forces the person to sort through a bunch of professions. This type of people have worked in all possible fields. They constantly find themselves in the mode of navigation. They cannot find their vocation, especially in the case of the opposition. I wanted to be an astrologer, then I got burned, and I'm sick of astrology. I'm going to do accounting, then I'm sick of accounting too. It is more difficult for males to receive Neptune's aspects because women can find themselves in psychology and esotericism, whereas these areas are not obvious for a man. He does not perceive them in the same way as a woman, which gives rise to illusions. And in the end, the person does nothing at all. She dreams, fantasizes. She can launch into a strange current of psychology. The subject of alcohol may come up, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. What does a normal person usually want? To identify herself, to find herself in something specific. But the native does not manage to get there and will most probably fail having aspects of the luminaries or the personal planets with Neptune, especially dissonant aspects. An individual with the Moon-Neptune conjunction often wants to find himself in a particular profession, which would be accepted and approved by society. But in the end, he cannot find himself in any field because it always seems to him that there is a lie, trickery, cunning everywhere, that the proposals are suspicious. Society imposes more pressure on him, which provokes negativity. If Mercury can divide and split the domain of the house of its placement, then according to Neptune, I am a jack of all trades because the planet unites and combines the subdomains of the house. You should not concentrate on one thing, on one single activity. It will not give advancement in that direction. It is considered that Neptune stands for spirituality. In the chart, Neptune is the ability to maneuver, to see the essence and the depth. At the lower level, it gives naivety. Spirituality, from your chart's perspective, is whether you follow your path or not. Maybe your life path consists only in earning money or in migration or in founding a family. This would be precisely your spirituality. Alcoholism, drug addiction. It is believed that Neptune is responsible for alcoholism and addictions in the chart. Alcoholism and drug addiction are the consequences of the scission of the personality, which results in the non-acceptance of oneself or the world. This is the subject of the luminaries. In medicine, all psychotropic substances and analgesics relieve the symptoms but do not cure the causes. Will the person be an addict? Will she have an inclination for it? It will be shown by the luminaries. Alcoholism in the classical sense of the diagnosis can be found in the charts with the luminaries severely afflicted. The afflicted sun gives the non-acceptance of oneself. The afflicted moon gives the non-acceptance of the world.